This video, I'm gonna walk through what I'm doing with the Digitakt and the melodies and the bass and the drums. So stick around and check out the drums specifically. Really cool. I'm using the length and scale per pattern. So this is the kick right here, and it's only going 7 steps instead of 16. I'll show you how that sounds. Let's mute everything but the kick. That's the kick. I had this pattern going across 4 bars, so 64 steps, but I shortened it down to 7/16. Take it back all the way to the full pattern. That's just the full pattern. The first one that I came up with, just keyed in a kick pattern. This is how you can get creative with the Digitakt. And come up with really interesting drum rhythms, which I've talked about before on this channel. One of my favorite, probably my favorite thing about the Digitakt is what you can do with drums. The patterns you can make, because to me, well, I'm a drummer, number one, so I'm kind of always thinking about rhythm, but to me, creating interesting, engaging drum rhythms is really effective in music. And I know that might sound obvious, but if you want to create unique but still catchy and powerful and rhythmic drums, this is the machine to do it with. So I'll show you what happens when I shorten this kick pattern down to 7 out of 16 steps. Okay, so we're in a different world. It's more of a groove rather than a straight on. So that it's already interesting. Let's go look at my snare pattern. Mute the kick for a second. There's the snare. Go back here. Select that. Same thing. So that was the original snare pattern that I programmed into the sequencer. And these adjustments here in these pattern length adjustments is where you get really, really creative rhythms in the Digitakt. And I liked it on 10 steps. Now we can hear the kick and the snare together. It's almost like an Afro beat. Afro beats have those really just groovy rhythmic patterns that I loved. So that's already interesting right there. Let's go to the hi-hat. me mute the kick and the snare. It's the same thing with the hi-hat. I have the hi-hat set to 7 out of 16 steps. Originally it was, I guess I probably don't need to go up. I only need to go up to 16 for this. Let me turn off the delay too, so you can really understand what the hi-hat was originally doing. And I have the LFO is doing some stuff to the filter frequency. Making it a little bit brighter, a little bit darker on each hit, just randomly. Actually, no, was that a triangle wave? So let me turn the delay back on. And we'll go back to 7. And you can see it right here on the sequencer. 7. You can see it when I adjust that 12 out of 16. But I want 7. So all together with the kick, the snare, and this hi-hat, just really interesting. Let's take a look at my bassline. Here's the bassline. I didn't do any of the adjustments with the pattern. It's just 16 out of 16 steps. When you combine these 4 on the floor, 4 measures, with one of the instruments, in this case the bass, when you combine that with the kick and the snare and the hi-hat that are set to those 7 out of 16 steps, 10 out of 16 steps, now the kick and the hi-hat and the snare are kind of doing something really different around that normal measure bassline. Now we can hear the drums with the bass. I mean, that is groove to me, to my ear. That is groove, and it's interesting. I like my drums to be interesting. I want a different groove. I love 4 on the floor, but it's so prominent in a lot of electronic music. So I'm a big fan of these types of drums. Now let's go take a look at the melody. So this is my melody I have. And right now it's going 64 out of 64 steps, which also works well. In the same way that the bass line is going all 64 steps. I have a nice long 4-bar melody here. Now let's hear it all together, the whole song. bring the bass. You see how, it might sound weird, but like, see how my body is kind of like my left shoulder is kind of doing something different than my neck. And you know, when you're listening to dance music or straight up rock music that's just kind of straightforward, it's more of your body's more like that, which is fine. But these sort of rhythms keep me engaged. You know, that sort of move. I don't know. And then also on the melody, I have the random feature on the Digitakt. Let's go to the melody. So, like on some of these steps, if you look at the trigger, I have some of them set to only be triggered 50%. So that's why when you hear this melody, it's not repetitive, but yet it still has that same theme in this G sharp minor scale. And I mean, this took me, you know, to come up with this melody. I went into the scale mode. Basically on the Digitakt, you can turn the keyboard into like a piano, but it's in the key of G sharp pentatonic minor. And I just randomly punched in things as I felt I wanted them. Did the same with the bass line, and just, you know, tweaking those drums, messing with messing with the sequencer. So, you know, the kick is only going for 7 steps out of 16, and the bass is going for 16 steps out of 16. So you're going to get this intermingling and this conversation between the bass and the kick drum, because they're not going for the same amount of time, but they're in the same BPM, obviously. And it's just automatically going to be on time, but they're going to be very unique. I love this machine. I can sit here for hours on end and just get lost in sound design. Let's look at the sound design for let me mute the drums. To talk a little bit about the LFOs on the Digitakt sequencer, this is where you can get really, they're not happy accidents. I suppose that's kind of what they are, but they didn't, you know, I didn't mess with it on accident, you know. So I'm going into the LFO and I'm assigning this LFO to my melody. I'm assigning it to move the tune of this melody at a certain speed, and I can adjust the speed of which it does that and the depth of which it does that. Now, if I adjust this depth, Now I have the same rhythmic melody, but in a different key. Of course, I'd have to go to the bass line and make those adjustments, otherwise it's out of tune. See how it's not in the same key anymore. But if I take this depth and put it to... I believe this LFO depth, I believe 12 is an octave up. I'm not positive on that. But it worked with my original bass line, and I originally had it down here at 0. Usually, I'll adjust this pitch LFO to about 0.25. And now we can turn that bass line back on, and it should be... Whoops. Now it's back in key because it was an octave up. But you go anywhere from between 0 and 12, then it's going to be in a different key. But I like to keep this depth of the sample tune LFO at about 0.25. It just gives it a little bit of weebly wobbly, but it's still in tune. It's just barely modulating the pitch, just to give it some character, really. The second LFO that's assigned to the melody is the amp decay. And so, the decay of a sound is either really short decay or a long decay. So it's randomly cycling through that. You hear the difference in the decay there on each note? And again, the trigger on these is only 50%, so you're not getting this repetitive thing over and over and over. It's always different, so it doesn't get old, not as quickly at least. But I could listen to this for hours. So I'm gonna put the microphone down for a minute and just kind of play with the song. Check out that snare. With the regular snare drum, you just have that one ka, ka, ka tune for the most part. Putting this LFO on the sample tune on the snare drum, I'm getting different pitches of the snare. each time. So it's kind of like there's a drummer hitting, 5 or 6 different snare heads, but they're all on time and in the same rhythm. I mean, I like the variety of each instrument that's happening in my songs. It makes the whole song 1,000,000% unique. There's nothing else like it, but yet it's groovy, catchy, melodic. I love the Digitakt, man. Well, that's about it for this one. Thank you for checking it out. Trying to post more videos on this channel. Trying to grow it so I could make 1,000,000 of these videos if people like them. Just sharing the knowledge that I do have of the Digitakt. And by the way, this is the Digitakt 1. And I don't have the 2. I have definitely heard how incredible it is. I do eventually want to get it. But if you can find a used Digitakt 1, I've seen them for like $300. Now's the time, and it's the gateway to the Digi 2, and it's a cheaper, more affordable way for you to find out if you enjoy it or not. And if you're patient, if you're experimental, if you're creative, sound design type across all of the sounds and instruments that you're creating with this machine, bass, melodics, drums, other crazy effects, you're gonna like this thing. That's all I have for now. Hope everyone has a lovely day or evening or morning, depending on where you are in the world, and stay tuned for more. Oh, and like and subscribe, of course.